Today's is going to be a doubt section. So we'll just clear some of the doubts. So the first aspect which I will take on is gray code. Okay. Like I told in the class, gray code is a code which is similar to binary. Only thing is when we move from two consecutive numbers, okay, only one bit would change. So how to generate a gray code, right? So if I have only two bits of gray code, it will be like 0 and 1. That be only two. Okay, obviously there is only one bit which is changing between 0 and 1. Now if I have to generate a gray code for a 2-bit system, right? So what I do is, okay, I draw a horizontal line and I do the mirror image. Okay, this is an horizontal axis. So I am going to pull this 1 and 0 below along the axis. I'm going to flip it. So 1 will come here, 0 will come here. Okay, this is known as taking mirror image along this horizontal axis. So I have taken an mirror image of 1 0. It has come to 1 0. And the next step, what we need to do is above the axis on which we have rotated, we put zeros, and below the axis we put 1 0. So this is the gray code for a 2-bit system. Okay, 0 0 0 1 1 1 and 1 0. Okay, this stands for bit 0, bit 1, bit 2, bit 3. Okay, increasing order. Okay, 0 1 2 3. So 2 is 1 1 instead of a binary 1 0. Here now 2 is 1 0 and 3 is going to be 2 is 1 1 and 3 is 1 0. So this is now, if you see from here to here, there is only one bit change. From here to here, there is one bit change. Is this aspect clear? Somebody can tell me in mic, yes or no. Anyone? Hello. Okay. Okay. So keep telling, some one of you can volunteer, anybody, and keep telling yes sir in between, so that I know I am not speaking. Okay. So the next step is to, yeah, tell me. Yeah. Yeah. This. Yeah. 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 I am going. Yeah. It is similar to that. I am going to expand it for the 3-bit also now. Okay, I'll tell you what to do for a 3-bit. So if you have a 2-bit system, there will be 4 unique numbers. Okay, 4 unique numbers from 0 to 3. So 0 will be 0 0, 1 will be 0 1, 2 will be 1 1, and 3 will be 1 0. That is the difference in grade code. Okay, so the advantage is, suppose we are running a counter which is increasing from 0 to 1 and all. So like in the binary code, whenever you are going from 0 to 1, like 2 to 3, there will be two changes, right? This will also change, this will also change. Similarly, from here to going back to 0 also, if you see, in a 3-bit system, in a normal binary, it will be 1 1 and then it will go to 0 0. So there will be two changes there. Here, when you're going from here to here again, so whenever you are running a sequential numbers, you are running some program which is sequentially increasing, this will consume less power because the number of transitions is less. Okay, so power is a very major issue. If you see my videos on digital VLSI, it's there in my YouTube channel, you'll understand that power has become a major issue for today's technology. Okay, now let me now I draw one more horizontal line to generate another for a 3-bit system, and I flip this entire data down. So 1 0 has come down here, 1 1 has come here, and then 0 1 and then 0 0. Okay, I have flipped, made one more line and flipped this entire data down, right? And then what is the next step? It's pretty simple. You put 0 zeros out here and you put ones here. So now this is an 8-bit binary code. Okay, this stands for 0 1 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 7. Now 7 is 1 0 0. Okay, 4 is 1 1 0 1. Is it clear till here? Anybody? Okay, so this is an how we do for. Now for 16-bit, I flip this entire thing bottom. Okay, I am going to flip this entire thing mirror image. I draw a line here and flip this entire thing here. So 1 0 0 1 0 1 will come here. So you see, and then the next step is simple. You add zeros there, you add 1 here. So this is for a 16-bit gray code system. Is it okay till here? So this is what the gray code looks like. right? So we can generate the gray code like this. If you have a binary, this is the circuit to generate, make an binary to gray or gray to binary. Okay, so these are the equations. So time being, don't worry. I'm just flashing it to give you an info, showing you a circuit and how they. Okay, how did these circuits come? That we will, you will be able to know design this circuit after Tuesday's class. Okay, Monday, Saturday, I'm going to touch upon an K-map optimization for 2 and 3 variables, and Tuesday I will teach you how to go about 4 variable K-maps. So once you have done with the 4 variable K-map, so you will be able to design this circuit yourself. Not only binary to gray, binary to any damn code. Okay, you can give an arbitrary code and you will be able to generate a circuit for that once you learn the K-map. Okay, so time being, this is the for a specific circuit for gray code. So how did the circuit come from? That you will learn in your next class. After Tuesday, you'll be able to do that. Okay. So there are some advantages of the gray code, which is switching activity is reduced because one digit change in consecutive, that we know. Okay, lower power consumption, faster response, minimum error in coding. These are some of the advantages. So in some applications, okay, the gray code is used. Okay, generally the code is the entire microprocessor might work only in a binary system, and then when we have to transmit the data and all, so it is then sometimes in some systems it is converted into a gray code, because in the transmission line minimum switching will be of help. Okay, so and error coding becomes easy. So those kind of things can be done it. So it is done in the I didn't find any microprocessor which works on gray code, but there are some interfaces which converts the binary into gray code for transmission and reception. So that is about all about gray code. Okay, so let me now close this. Now let me show you something on LT Spice. Right. Okay. Now, many of you have done this in your lab one. Not many, all of you have done. So some people have done it in two schematics. Okay. So and they've been requesting me, sir, we have done in two schematics. So I told, okay, put it in one schematic. So you might be finding some difficulty in copying it. It's pretty simple. Okay, I'll just show you. You will go to edit, right? Duplicate, right? It is, then you can go to the next, and you can just paste it here, right? So it will come here. See, so it is easy. Copy paste is easy. So in case you have to combine, you have done simulation in two schematics and you have to copy, so there is nothing much. Okay, just go edit, duplicate, and select the required things and go to a new schematic and just paste it there. So that is very much possible. Okay, so let me close this. No. Okay. Now this is the schematic which most of you have done, and when you were running it, you had some issues with the output, right? So you run it, you plot it, right? So you found that there is one unwanted spike here. Okay. So you are able to hear me, right? Okay. 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 So now see, there is a problem in the spike. Now how do I fault finding is a very simple technique. Okay, you got to think logically, right? There is a spike which is coming here. Now I have to identify the source of the spike. Okay, so what you got to do is, okay, do an escape. label net. Let me put it as wire 1. Okay, I put wire 1. Label net wire 2. Okay, these are some. Okay, and then I'm going to run it. I'm going to plot this wire 1 and I'm going to plot this wire 2, right? So if you see this blue line, okay, there is a spike here. So I know, okay, this is the blue line which is coming here, wire 1 is creating a problem, right? So let me try and analyze that problem now. Okay, so the problem is with this. Okay, here there is a spike, so that spike is getting reflected here. So I go back one stage, right, and then I try to analyze what is happening. So let me this label wire 2 or wire 3. Okay, so I put a wire 3 here. Okay, I run that. Now let me take the inputs plots as A has come, C has come, B has come, wire 3 has come, and wire 1 has come, right? Okay, now I add plot plane, add plot plane, add plot plane. Let me take A here, let me take B here, let me take C here, pull this up, A, B, C. Okay, okay. Now you see, this is A, B, C, and at wire 1, I am getting this additional spike. Now what could be the reason? If you go see what is happening with A is going low, B is going high at that place, and C is coming low. C is continue to remain 0. So A is going high and B is coming low. So go to the circuit here, right? So now what is happening is A is going high and C is going low. No, okay, this is B, right? So A is going low and B is going high, right? So sorry, B is going high and A is going low and C is already low. So here it is going to 0, here it is going 1, right? So this output should have been 0 actually. But what happens is B is going high, whereas this is going 0 because there is one more propagation delay. There is a definite propagation delay in this OR gate, right? This is going 0 at exactly, right, at exactly, see, B is going high at exactly, and we have set for some 2 microsecond. I think at 2 microsecond B is going high, right? Whereas A also is going low there. So this also at 2 microsecond it should go low, right? But it was earlier it was 1 here, but this one is going low after a few picoseconds, right? So during that picoseconds B is already gone high, but this is supposed to go 0 immediately because A is going 0, but that 0 is getting reflected here as a 0 only after a few picoseconds. So during that picoseconds, this AND gate is getting both high, so it is going high, but soon after, since A is going 0 here, after a few picoseconds this is going 0. So this is an AND gate, although B has gone, initially B was 0, now this is going to 0, so it will become 0 here. So during that few picoseconds time, you have W1 going high, right? So that is known as an hazard in digital circuit. So this will occur in, so you may say in one way you can say this is an asymmetrical propagation path. Even if you have symmetrical propagation path, still you will have this problem, which is known as hazard. And if you see the course handout, there is one topic known as hazards. So in that we will try and with by seeing the K map itself, I can say, okay, there will be hazards at these nodes. Okay, the K map will give a clear indication where all your system will have hazards. So now seeing here, so in this particular case, though, it is asymmetrical, so you can clearly make out there might be an hazard here. Like, but even for symmetrical, like if you use three AND gates and one three input OR gate, there could be an hazard. So by seeing the circuit, you cannot make out if there will be an hazard. Hazard means unwanted spikes like this. Okay, so in that case also, I'll teach you in the class, by seeing the K map, how we can identify where will be those hazards and all. Okay, so this you are able to see because we are using 74 series IC models. Okay, these are all realistic industry application ICs. It is not ideal ICs. Okay, if you use an ideal ICs, it will have infinite, it will have zero delay, then you will not be able to see the practical problems which is having in these circuits. So that is the reason, like the LT Spice gives some ideal device. So, but I insisted on you all downloading this library. So this library is an these ICs are the actual characteristics. They have the actual characteristics of an practical IC, right? That is why it has got a definite propagation delay, and you are able to see those problems out here. Okay, so this is the spike issue clear, everybody? Yeah, we did in the lab one. Yeah. No, you didn't create the schematic like this, right? No, they have this particular. This is also done by some student, and he had a problem. He had taken AC here, B here, so it may not happen for every particular comma. Even if the circuit is looking similar, if you have taken A, B here and C here, okay, and then again B here, it may not be there. So it depends on the kind of circuit it happens. Okay, by seeing the circuit, you cannot say that there will be an hazard, but by seeing the K map, okay, when we learn about the K map, in the K map, even if this circuit is symmetrical, from the K map we can definitely tell there these are the conditions in which there will be hazards, and you will be also be able to tell for what vector condition, for what change the spike will come. Okay, everything we will be able to pinpoint when we do the hazard analysis. Is it okay? Okay, when we do the hazard. Okay. Anybody else has got any doubt with respect to this? Okay. Then let me take up an next example. Okay. Okay. Now let me explain you voltage. Okay. When we many of you had an query regarding V pulse. Okay, we take initial voltage 0. This is what the setting which I recommended most of the time. Let me change each of them and tell you what happens. Okay, 1 pico, 1 pico, T on, 1 micro, period is 2 micro. Okay, run. Right. Okay, so this is the waveform which we got. So the first doubt which many of you asked was, right, and why give zero, zero here always? Because you just have to tell whether it is 5 or it is 5 or 2 or 1, whatever is. See, it's a digital pulse. It has got one value which is corresponding to 0, and logic 0, one corresponding to logic 5. But no, not necessarily logic 0 should be 0, right? So like in ECL topology, it is some minus 3 is the 0, right, and plus 3 is the 1. You could have a system like that also, right? So you should be able to generate all kind of pulses. So that is the reason. If you see, this is 1 is 3, this is minus 3. Okay, so that is the reason we have no, two v on and v initial. Okay, so if you go to the properties, okay, so the v on and v, so these are the v on and v initial together will define what is the exact voltages for logic 0 and logic 1. So these are that's why these two levels are there. Since we are using TTL, for in our case it is 0 and 5. So that is the reason I suggested, okay, we use 0 and 5 volt. Is this much clear? Can somebody just speak on mic and tell? Yeah. Okay. So the next comes the rise time. Okay. So rise time is the this you see a sharp transition. That is because I have given 1 pico rise time. I can give it as say 200 nano rise time, and I can give 200 nano fall time. Okay, so if I want if I run, so you see the rise time has changed and the fall time also has changed. Okay, so using this I can in fact make this as a triangular waveform also. I can keep increasing it till I get a triangular waveform. So for any transition, sometimes you might be working on some other circuit which requires a triangular waveform. So you can increase that time, rise time and fall time, and get a triangular waveform. Okay, because if you see LT Spice doesn't provide an, it provides a sinusoidal signal. Okay, so it provides a sinusoidal signal. I can show you. So it doesn't provide a triangular waveform, but using the rise and fall time, you can generate a rise and transform. Okay, so that is about the, okay, now let me revert back it to 1 pico and fall time into 1 pico. Okay, the next is T on. Okay, this is to get a 50% duty cycle. What is 50% duty cycle? On period by total period into 100. Okay, so I can have a small waveform. I can have an asymmetric duty cycle also. Okay, okay, you see this is very small period, right? So I can change this to 0. On, I am putting on as 5. Okay, and then I'm running it. So you see the waveform here now, it is off, it is on for a short duration, because on period is not 50% of the time period. I have just given 100 nano. Okay, so this is how we generate this is what the T on and T period. Yeah, anybody has got a doubt? Yeah, tell me. Yeah, no, V on, V on is 1. Yeah, correct. This is T on and V on, they are related. Okay, so this is one. So okay, now after that, let me close this. I told you what we have been doing is I wanted to generate various test vectors. Okay, so I was changing the input frequency, but you might want to do you might want to change the input at the same frequency but generate different test vectors. Okay, you can do that also by using this delay function. I can go to duplicate, I can select this entire thing, I can put it here, right? Now I am going to I have something known as delay here. Okay, So now delay was 0 there. Now let me give 100 nano delay there. Okay, now I'm going to run it and I'm going to plot this signal also. Let me add plot plane. Let me take it here. Now you see this has got delayed by 100 nano here, right? This signal and this signal, there is a delay. Let me increase the delay further so that it becomes even more clear. So let me put the 500 delay and done it. Okay. See, now these two signals are, they're of the same frequency now. Okay, only thing is I have staggered it like this. So is it generating with several test vectors? This is 1 0. This is if I assume this as 1 0 0 1. This is 0 1. Okay, it's not generating 1 1, right? So I can again go back here and uh, see T on. Let me make it as 200. Let me make it as 250. Let me take the delay as 250. Okay. Let me make T on as 250. Okay, and run. Right. So again it is 1 0 1 0. Okay, you don't have two ones here, right? So I have to do a little bit. This delay is slightly on the higher side, so I need to let me make it as 500. Okay, let me make this as 500. Okay, let me run here. Right now I have used the same frequency, but I have generated all the required test vectors, right? 1 0, right? This is 1 1, this is 1 0 0 0. Is it clear now? Can somebody just prompt? Okay, so these both are same frequency, but I am getting all possible test vectors. Okay, so this is another provision which we have in, okay, in LT Spice. Exactly same thing you can do in Cadence, and that is the reason no, I insisted we will go for LT Spice this time, because when we want to graduate into Cadence, which is a VLSI design kit, all the settings and the background that also runs Spice, so it will be very easy for you to migrate into Cadence. Okay, okay. So the last thing which I wanted to show you is, okay, it is the PWL waveform. So let me remove these things. There is another option. When you go to here, you have a voltage. You pick up a voltage. Okay, you put a voltage, right? You click here, then advanced. Okay, you have something known as PWL. PWL here, right? So you can give time initial value, time 0 some value, time 2 next voltage level, time 3 next voltage here, time 4 next voltage. Okay, and then so I have already fed some data, so let me show you. Like time 0, it is 0 volt. At 1 micro, it is 0 volt. At 1.00001 micro, it has made a transition to 5 volt. At 1.2 volt, it still remains 5 volt. Okay, so I have done then additional PWL points. Okay, so after that I have given it 3 volt, it remains 5. Then 3.0, it goes to 0. At 4, it goes to 0. So I can keep on adding few points. Okay, so that is how I generate the required test vectors. Okay, and then if I plot it, okay, you see this, it is no, it is not a symmetrical waveform or the way I had decided. Okay, one way it will go to 5, after that and it will come down to 0, then it will go to 5, and this time it has to remain 1 for n. So I can generate whatever test vector I want. Okay, it need not be a symmetrical waveform. So for a n number of sources you can take, and you can generate whatever test vector you want. So it gives a full flexibility at your end. So whatever specific test vectors you want to generate, so you don't have to rely on an a square wave or a wave with all symmetrical waveforms. You can have all kind of waveforms. You just you with using PWL you can make n number of test vectors, specific requirement to your circuit, which means the specific requirements of your circuit which you have designed, and you can specify how the test vector like. Okay, so that's all for today. I think I've covered these small aspects which most of you had some queries. Is there any other thing which is bothering you? Oh, okay, let me take up BCD. Okay, okay. No, yeah, let me just take that. BCD was a number system, I guess. Yeah. This diagram. Yeah. Okay. Let's just okay. In BCD addition, okay. Suppose each of this bit is restricted to 0 to 9 digits only. Okay, it cannot take 0 to 9 because it is BCD. Okay, this is representing some. It is representing a decimal number, so it cannot take a value which is more than 9. Okay, now I am doing 4 plus 5. So I am doing 4 and adding 5. Okay, I am getting, okay, 4. This is binary equivalent of 4. This is binary equivalent of 5. So when I am adding it, I am getting expected result. I am getting it as 9. Okay, this is perfectly fine. So when I am adding 4 plus 8, okay, now I am getting it 12. Well, okay, but in the BCD representation, I should actually get 2 here, and in the next MSB I should get 1. Okay, so only that, and when I am driving an 7 segment display or something, I'll get the correct result. Is it okay till here? Okay. So now what to do? So whenever I am adding 4 plus 8, okay, it is a greater than 9 here. Okay, so what is the technique to bring it 9? You are adding 6 out here, right? When you add 6, what happens is, okay, so when you add 6, this is going to take it beyond 16. Okay, so when you add 6, it is going to take it beyond 16, right? So obviously after 16 it will start again from 0 1 2 3 4. So right, so automatically it will go to 16, and then it will come to 0, and it will generate a carry. Okay, this is actually for a binary it is 16, but in BCD I am going to consider it as 1, right? So this serves our purpose of by adding 6, right? So I am going to generate a 1 here. So whenever, if I detect a number adding two numbers in a BCD addition, okay, the inputs are BCD, but the adders are going to be a binary adders. You have half adder, full adder. In the hardware, it is there is no BCD adder as such. right? You have to make a BCD adder. The adders are generally pure binary adders. So when you add binary adder, it will generate like this, right? But now the circuit has to now seeing here, I can make out it is 9, but the circuit cannot make it is greater than 9. So you have to detect that. The circuit has to detect that this number is greater than 9, and if it is greater than 9, it has to add another 6 to it, right? If you add another 6 to it, what you are actually doing is you are pushing the number beyond 15, 1111. So once you do that, it will generate a carry, and after 111 it will get reset. The counter will this number will get reset to 02. So in binary it is actually pushing this carry out, but for BCD we are going to take it as a BCD number. Is this much part clear? Okay, so there is one more condition. So it will generate 12. There is one more condition when you add 19, 9 and 9 for an example. So here also in the pure binary addition, it will generate 10 and 10. Okay, carry will be generated. In binary, this is 18, right? This is going to be 18. This is a 16 plus 2, 18. Okay, this is the 16th place. This is, but this is not answer is not what we require. We require a BCD answer. Okay, so in that case also, I am going to add another 6, right? By adding another 6, what happens is, okay, this gets reset to, no, it has become now 8, right? So carry is 1. Now this is 18, right? So under two conditions: one, when there is no carry but still the number is greater than 9, and the second condition, this number is not greater than 9 but there is a carry. So there are two different conditions for which we need to add 6. We need to detect first, okay, these two conditions, and then whenever this condition is met, that there is a carry, or there is no carry but the number is greater than 9, then we got to add 6. So we need to detect this and do this. Is it okay till here? Okay, so this is the circuit which does this is a normal 4-bit adder, like it adds these two numbers. Okay, it is just adding it, and if there is a carry, this will go high, right? And this will give the output. Now obviously, so this carry, whenever there are two conditions: one, if there is a carry, so that is detected automatically, because these are all normal full adders which you are using here. Now this is the output from the first these two 4 bits when you are adding. Okay, now to detect whether it is greater than 9, what do? We take a AND of these. We take AND of these two. Okay, so this is 8, right? Whenever this is high, and you take this, whenever Z1 is high, will it be greater than 9? Obviously, right? For 9, what happens? Right, this will be high and this will also be high, correct? In binary, whenever this is standing for 8, if Z3 and Z0 is high, that means that is 8 plus 1, 9. But Z3 and Z1 is high, it is 10. So 10 will be detected by this gate. What about 11? 11 will be detected by this and this, Z3 and Z2, right? Similar, so these two, if you this will be 0 in that case, right? No, 8 plus 4, 12. 12 will be detected. 11 also will be detected by these two. This will, Z0 also will be 1 high. But if you see, if you take an AND from here and here by here, 10 to 15 will be detected by these two gates. Either of these two gates, not both the gates. In some cases, like specifically I told, for 8 plus 4, 12. For 12, this AND gate will trigger a 1. For 10, this gate will trigger a 1, right? So similar for all different combinations from 10 to 15, one of these gates will trigger a 1, right? Now you are taking a OR here, you are taking a OR here. You could have used an 3 input OR also here, doesn't matter. Still, it would work, right? So this will give me a 1 whenever those two conditions are met, that when they carry or it is greater than 1. Okay, now whenever that condition is met, okay, what we got to add 6. So you are using one more parallel adder, and we are giving this one which is generated to B1 and B2. Okay, so when, and I am giving permanently 0 to B0 and B3. So what is this? So this is 4 plus 2 6. So you will add 6, right? So whenever there is an one triggered at this node, it will add 6. If there is no one triggered, it will be 0 here. So it will be 0 out here, right? So it will add 0 and 0 and it will give the answer. So we don't have to do anything if there is no one triggered here. So automatically you will get, okay. And now what about this carry? Doesn't carry any significance. It is this carry which is important. Okay, so this is the carry which is going to generate me the next BCD number. So this is going to be the second digit and this is going to be my first digit. Okay, here I can put 0000 and this C for the second bit. Is it okay? Okay. Anybody else has got any other doubt? Yeah, tell me. Yeah, yeah, we can do that. Now, no, I gave a little bit of exposure there. You can draw, but no, in the next few classes, once we see K maps, we will see how the full adder and no, half adders are designed. Once we read the K maps, it will be clear. Okay. So in lab we are slightly ahead. Okay, in the lab we are slightly ahead. The theory is yet to come, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Co- correct, correct, correct. Yeah, yeah. Will discuss in the class. Okay. In the K maps, we will be able to do that. Okay. Firstly, in the first two three lectures of K maps and Q, we will learn how to synthesize single outputs. Okay, what is the optimum circuit if you have a set of inputs and you have a one output, how to make an optimum circuit to generate that particular one output. Okay, so that aspect will be covered in those two lectures. So subsequently this time I have introduced one more topic which was not there earlier, which is known as multi output logic. Okay, in which you have a set of inputs but outputs could be multiple. Okay, in that case how to use some of the functions which you have already generated for some function. Okay, how to optimize the design so that you are using minimum number of gates. So so that automatically you should be able to say, okay, if I use this particular block, I can use for multiple functions. Okay, because there are multiple outputs. Okay, so how to design optimize and multi output circuit also, which will be the blocks, small blocks, if I make, I can use at multiple places. So all those aspects will be covered in detail somewhere in after 4 or 5 or 6 classes. Okay. Okay, time being, you no, in the lab, whatever circuit I have showed, it's an XOR. Sum is an XOR of A and B, and carry is a AND function of A and B. Okay, so we restrict to that time being. Subsequently, in the theory class, and first the target will be to optimize single outputs. Okay, once you have become familiar with K maps and Q maps, subsequently we will see how to optimize same set of inputs but multiple outputs. So you will be wasting lot of resources if you try to do optimization of each output. Okay, so when you have multiple outputs, there could be a way where we should be able to optimize that. So that aspect also I'll cover in the theory class. Okay. Okay, anybody else has got any doubt? Yeah, yeah. No, you can't have a three-digit number in BCD, right? In BCD means decimal number. So you got to represent at least 0 to 9 fully, right? So 9 you will 8 and 9 you will get only with an 4-bit number, right? Okay. Okay, okay. This entire circuit, okay, this entire circuit is only for a single bit addition. Okay, you are adding 429 and say 120. Okay, this circuit will add only 9 and 0. Okay, then it will generate a carry out. Okay, so you will have this entire thing again for your next bit also, right? And this carry out will go as a carry in for the next bit, next, like that. If it is an no, okay, sorry, I got your question wrong first time. If it is, you are speaking about an 3-bit number like 924, so in that case you will have three such blocks, each block for each bit. Okay, and the carry out will go as a carry into the next bit. Okay, this carry out. Okay, just remember it is this carry out, not this carry out. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this output carry which is out, this is how, this is just a junk data, this zero, this carry. Okay. Okay, anybody else? Anybody else has got any doubt whatsoever? You can, if there are no doubts, and I will close this. Yeah, tell me. Okay. See, you have various input combinations, right? Okay, so these combinations are given names as minterms. Okay, this particular input combination is given as a minterm M0. It's just a name which we have given. If x is 0, y is 0, okay, then that particular input combination is known as a minterm, which is designated as M0. Similarly, 0 1 is an specific input given to the system. Okay, so that is termed as M1. Okay, because this is 1, this is 2, so that is given as M2. M3 is again an input combination, it is the name. So we have 4 minterms here. 4 minterms represents unique input combinations. For a 2 input system, there will be 4 unique input combinations which are named as M0, M1, M2, M3. Is it okay till here? Okay, now for these 4, now I have a function. Okay, I can my requirement could be for a circuit, B circuit, C circuit, it could be different requirements. Okay, X could be, okay, temperature, Y could be humidity. Okay, so there are 2 inputs, and this could output could be running my AC. Okay, so I might have a requirement. Okay, no, if the temperature is very low and humidity very low, I want to switch on. But if the temperature is low and humidity is high, I don't want to switch on the system. Whereas if the temperature is high and then humidity is low, I want to set the system, and if both are high, I want to switch on the system. So this requirement is dependent on the user or your design requirement. So F3, the requirement of F3, that is a function, right? So it can have, it can say okay, for these minterms my F3 should be high. Is it okay till here? Okay, so when I say F3 is equal to M0, M1, M3 is equal to F, I write like this. Okay, in the algebraic form I can write like this, in the minterms I write this thing. So from this I need to design a circuit which we have not yet covered, that we'll do in the K maps, but this is just a precursor to the K maps. So when I define a function, when I say F3 is equal to if I write a summation of 0, 1, 2, 3, it means for these m terms my F3 should be high. Is it okay? Okay, this is only a specification which we will make. So when we design a system, first we need to know what are the inputs and for what conditions of inputs the output should be high. So this is only specifying my requirement. From the user, I am taking certain requirement as a designer, and I am specifying the output. So this is only that much, that aspect, minterm, as of now. Is it okay? Okay, okay. So see here, if you see, there are three ones and there is 1 0. Okay, so I have to make some circuit which will trigger a one. So if you see, there is only 1 0 here. Okay, so probably I can make a circuit which is default one and which will go zero only at one particular input condition, right? That will save some hardware, right? I can do that also. Here it is 1 1 1. Most of the cases it is one. Only in one particular condition it is going to zero, right? So I might as well make a system which is default one and which will pull it down to zero only when it is zero, right? So I have an alternate method which is known as max term, right? So min terms are generally implemented by using AND operators and using OR, right? So this is 0 and 0, that is x naught and y naught, right? And then this is x naught and y, right? And this is x and y. So x and y, right? So these are the various ways to represent the min terms also. Now for max terms, we are going to target the zeros here, right, in the functional output, right? So that is where so I2 comes. Okay, here now you have to target 0 here, right, because the majority 1. So I'll make a circuit which default produces 1 and it has to go to 0 for a specific condition. Okay, what is the specific condition? It is, okay, it is f bar. This is actually f, not f bar. Okay, so you have x bar, y bar and condition. So if you put a, if I have to have f, it has to be a bar over that. So by De Morgan's theorem, that will come as x plus y, right? X bar, y bar, the whole bar will become x plus y. Is this part clear?